on CBC.
For years, scientists have tried to study and explain the anatomy of a sports star. Is success driven by determination, or is it in the DNA? Why do some of the world's best female golfers come from South Korea? Do Jamaicans, like Usain Bolt, have a speed gene? Well, the new book says this talent is everywhere, waiting to be plucked and polished by sports teams and businesses alike. Rasmus Ankersen is author of The Goldmine Effect, Crack the Secrets of High Performance. Great to have you here.
A pleasure to be here.
Ian, you came at this through sport and did travel the world and look at these so-called gold mine places. So first, what do we learn? What is the commonality? Why do these places exist where there are these big pockets of talent?
So people tend to think that there must be something in the water, but really there's no scientific evidence for that. Not that genetics don't play a role, but if there is a genetic advantage, it's not race-linked. So in other words, talent is really everywhere. Yeah. So there's a bunch of factors. So one of the factors is obviously role models. So I remember when I came to Kenya to train with the world's best long-distance runners, I went for a run at a jog in the morning, and I easily saw 3 world record holders. That's the kind of place that if you win the Tuesday morning training session, you're probably the fastest man on the planet. So we have these role models, and they have two main lessons. So the first is that it teaches all the young guys who train with them that there's always somebody who's better than you. Right. They teach them to lose in a way, you can say. And the second lesson is that it also gives them belief. So if you run 10 strides behind the world record holder, there's a good chance that you think that someday you might be able to do that yourself. So if you can do it, then why can't I?
So now, a lot of your work was done originally around looking at athletes and the talent of athletes, but what about in other areas, like business? You know, how can you somehow nurture, great leaders, great entrepreneurs, great creativity within a, business setting?
Yeah, I think you will have a hard time finding a commercial asset in business that's more important than being able to attract and grow the best people. So I think there's a lot to learn from the business in these gold mines. So one of them is obviously, how do you identify talent? So there's this athletic club in Jamaica who basically have a coach that weighs 150 kilos. He never sprinted himself, but graduated in statistics. And he took second and third level athletes and made them world class by rethinking what you look for when you identify talent. So he talks a lot about that. You need to understand the context in which performance is created. If you have a sprinter that runs 10.2 and one running 10.6, the majority of the sprint coaches go for the 10.2 guy. But this guy said maybe, but not necessarily. So imagine the 10.2 guy that have the best coaches, best training environments, while the 10.6 guy basically trained on his own. So a raw 10.6 can be better than a trained 10.2. So I think the same lesson is important in business, that how do we assess skill within context. Would you hire a salesperson from Apple or one from Microsoft? Most people go for the Apple guy, but with the momentum they have, is it possible that a good result in Apple indicate less potential than an okay result in Microsoft?
Does it also argue for clustering effect? I mean, we've sort of seen a lot of research over the course of time that you get these centers of excellence, like Silicon Valley would be an obvious one, but at places in Europe as well. Is that the same as sort of what goes on in Kenya, where you kind of see excellence nearby and then you could aspire to it? Does it create the same kind of halo effect?
I think there's typically one guy breaking the ice, and then the rest comes. Yeah. So you see that as a common pattern in all the gold mines. So Usain Bolt breaks the ice, and here come all the Jamaican sprinters. The same with the long distance runners in Kenya, and the same with the female golfers in Korea.
So how do leaders take this upon themselves to create great talent? Like what are some of the things they can do to go and nurture and create talent within a corporation?
I think leaders have to understand, that was a lesson I learned in Jamaica, that a performance environment should not be designed for comfort. It should be designed for hard work. So I remember I came out to this MVP track and field club in Jamaica, and the first thing I thought was, where's the running track? Because all I saw was this big grass field, they rusty weights in a gym. And so the coach talked a lot about that people must do a sacrifice to be here. He wants to know who wants it most.
Right.
So in business we tend to think that if we give people the right coffee and the right temperature, they will be creative. But it's not about the facilities, it's really about what you put into these facilities.
Great.
It's fascinating, Rasmus. Great to have you here with us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Rasmus Ankersen, the author of The Goldmine Effect, Crack the Secrets of High Performance. Up after the break, is it art or